The leadership is to serve your community. That's the environment that I was brought up in. I'd like to think that that's how I continue to live my life. There's never been a more important time in the history of our country, in the history of the world, and most certainly in the history of Lower Hutt, that a diverse council is at the forefront of our local politics.
Kia ora whānau, welcome to another podcast. Exciting today. I'm casting with Javi. Javi, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Are you excited about the guest we have in the studio today?
Yes, I'm very excited today.
Absolutely. So let's welcome the Mayor of Lower Hutt, Ken. How are you?
Kia ora talofa. I'm very well, thank you. And looking forward to being on your show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us this time to have this corridor with you. So, Mayor, before we get into the how you become mayor, etc., I do this with the guests. Like, if I give you that mic, how you would love to introduce yourself?
Well, firstly, I'm a child of the Great Migration. My parents, like a lot of immigrants to New Zealand, they came as part of the Great Migration from the Pacific to New Zealand, Aotearoa New Zealand in the 1950s. They were both career public servants. Ultimately, they bought a house in Wainuiomata in 1958, which is the family home, and I still live in the family home. My parents have both departed this world, and they were very big church people, very big community people, and because they were early settlers or early migrants to New Zealand, they were the home base for a number of generations that followed after them. So my early life was a series of watching my parents hosting and inducting and supporting and encouraging new immigrants like themselves coming to Aotearoa New Zealand, looking for work, looking to educate their children here. So the PIC church in Newtown, just around the corner from where we are, was a major focal point for the Pacific Island communities in the 1950s. Right. There was that PIC church, and then there was a St. Anne's Catholic Church as well in Newtown. They were the two main, because obviously there was a lot smaller population. Then my sister, Lua Manawawini, or Dame Lua Manawawini Laban as she is, now she was educated at Erskine College. There's just the two of us. And she's had a career in education and in politics. Herself, she was part of the Helen Clark government for a decade. And I was educated at Scots College here in the city, in spite of living in Wainuiomata. And then my early life was as a police officer, broadcasting, community work, and now politics.
Right.
So that's my life. 5 children, 6 grandchildren.
Right. Wonderful. Amazing. How amazing is this story? Like, come as a migration, and now I'm sure they are proud. The parents, as much as we community are proud to have. Is it the first Pacific we have as a mayor for Lower Hutt? Apparently,
I'm the first Pacifica mayor in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the country. Oh, wow. It wasn't something that I campaigned on. It wasn't even something I knew. Right. It came up in one of the interviews, essentially minutes after I got elected. I was in front of the media, and then I remember asking somebody to check, because I didn't want to go. Yes. I didn't want to start saying things and find out that I was the second. But as it turned out, indeed, we seem to be a family of firsts in a lot of ways. My sister was the first Pacifica female MP in Parliament. I think my mother was the first Equal Employment Opportunity Office in the old social welfare department back in the day as well. And so we have, I've been fortunate. Aotearoa New Zealand has been great to our family.
Yes. Wonderful. Within that, I think what is interesting me now, if I want to ask you, who's your role model I see there's a lot of things you are taking from your family. Is that they have pushed you to be that person who give to community? Because what I'm hearing, you went to the police, you went to the broadcasting community. What is that love you want to keep serving community? What's the story?
Well, there's a famous Samoan proverb Eli ala manuia ila tautua, and what that means is the road to greatness is paved in service, and it tells a story about the importance and the significance of servant leadership, understanding that it's the community and that's others come first, and your job or your commitment to leadership is to serve your community. That's the environment that I was brought up in. I'd like to think that that's how I continue to live my life today in service of others, and I found that that's kept me pretty much on a steady and authentic pathway to try to make a positive contribution to the people that I'm capable of influencing.
Wonderful. Oh, amazing. What a great. Javi, you have a question from your side?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for being here. And I wanted to say that when you mentioned the fact that, you weren't aware as well that you were the first Pacifica mayor. I don't know, something that came to mind just now was, what does that mean to you, being the first Pacifica mayor? And especially, it's 2020, it's in 2020s now. What do you think about that? And what did that mean for you and your community and your family?
I looked at some history recently from Lower Hutt point of view, and I looked at the 1941 Lower Hutt City Council elections, and 9 white males were elected on the 9-person council in 1941, and then a further 9 white males also ran and didn't get elected, and then the person who ran 19th was the only woman. So if you track from 1941 what Aotearoa New Zealand was like in in fact, I don't even think we were Aotearoa New Zealand in 1941, were we at all?
Yeah.
Not even close. It was a white, male-dominated society and country. So no room for Indigenous, no room for immigrants, certainly no Pacifica representation. So you pitch ahead now to 2026, the Lower Hutt City Council have 8 women, 5 Māori, an Indian, a Chinese, a Tongan, and a Samoan mayor.
Wow.
And that's still the most diverse we've ever been, though.
It is the most diverse. I'm very proud. I like having the opportunity when I speak publicly as often as I can, and I include namaste, ni hao, malo elele, kia ora, talofa lava, and hello, and I use that as an example to introduce the diversity of our council.
Yeah.
I said the languages that I've just welcomed you in is a reflection of the ethnicities that sit at our table, something that we're very proud of, and I have the opportunity, because I get to speak as often as I do, the more times I can include an acknowledgement and reckon it might only be a word or a greeting, but nonetheless it's a public acknowledgement that we are a diverse council made up of many ethnicities, and something that we should be proud of and celebrate, and I try to do that.
No.
Amazing.
I think you're completely right in the sense, though, that it's definitely still, like you were saying, that sense, it's like that white dominated kind of space that it's like maybe it is something that we're still recovering from, and I feel like
it is, and it's constant, isn't it, that challenge? So you have a look at how the world is now politically, and you have a look at the national ACT NZ First coalition, and you look at their style and of politics, and then you look around the world where there's been a real shift towards right wing, hard edge, the Donald Trumps of this world. So what we're doing, or what we have done at the Hutt City Council and at other organisations and elected bodies around the world and around New Zealand, is that you need to be a beacon of hope. You need to be you need to be a beacon of change. You need to be forthright. You need to stand at the forefront of changing and influencing. So I think from a diversity point of view, there has never been a more important time in the history of our country, in the history of the world, and most certainly in the history of Lower Hutt, that a diverse council is at the forefront of our local politics.
Right.
And I firmly believe that. You can go to any school, and I guarantee there's 30 ethnicities at least. I visit a lot of schools in my capacity as mayor, and they talk to me with great pride that they're a school with 37 different ethnicities. I went to one the other day. There was 42 different things, and they have their own cultural days. They have their own multicultural days, and it is a sea of of colour, of laughter, of joy, of culture. Things that are important to us and things that we need to celebrate. In the same way that shows like this, the community that's tuned in and watching this show, they want to see something of themselves when they watch a show like this. They want to hear something that's consistent or has a parallel with their own life. And for a lot of them, especially the initial migration of families that come out here, especially the older ones, they think about their homeland, more than probably their kids give them credit for. They think about the old days. They think about the importance of their own history and their own culture. And we it's exactly the same with with the Te Ao Māori, and why there's been a resurgence of connectivity, of celebration of tikanga, because they're constantly under pressure. I read somewhere recently that if we're not careful, they think that in 10 years' time, 30% of the world's indigenous languages will disappear.
Yes.
We don't want that to happen. So we need to find ways.
Because language as well, it carries, along with language, it carries, the culture's knowledge. And, it's the same with what you were talking about. I don't know, it just really struck me how when you move, you enter this whole new world. And I don't know, as well, with your family moving and all of that, I imagine just seeing this representation for all the Pacifica families and having Pacifica Mayor. I don't know, that's something that
recently we celebrated the Filipino National Day. There was a flag raising. There was some formal speeches, some delivered in Filipino, and again the dress, the colour, the spectacle, the food. After, everything was a reflection of the country. In what previously, might have been frowned upon, but it was everybody participating in the joy of celebrating the importance of a country's independence.
So, Mayor, I want to ask you about the leadership, especially now you're leading one of the most diverse council in the country. I'm sure there's a lot of, I don't know if you feel there's a weight about all eyes is on the council because of the uniqueness of such a council, because of those voices, ethnicities it have. So you, as a leader of the city, how you feel, what is, if we start from this one, break the question to two, what does leadership mean to you? And what is meaning for you when you're leading such a diverse council?
Yeah, well, firstly, to answer your question on leadership, if you can't change or influence the many in the community that don't have very much, then you can hardly influence the very few that are rich. And I think understanding the importance of every resident in the city having the opportunity to live a full and independent life is absolutely one of the crucial principles of leadership. It's helping those in the community that need help. 95% of the people who live in the community have no use to interact with the city council. You know, they live their own independent life. They've got their own, you know, they've got their own homes. They've got their own careers. They've got their own independent income. They're able to pay their bills and, you know, able to enjoy life to the fullest. But that's not the same for everybody. You know, there are some at the other end as we speak that are dealing with major issues that impact on their ability to live a quality life. You know, homeless is a challenge. Housing, inadequate housing is a challenge. The cost of living for a lot of people. The cost of electricity is up nearly 20%. All sorts of, you know, the cost of butter, milk and bread, you know, those are things that you need on a daily basis just to survive in the world. And as I said, you know, 95% of the population are doing okay when it comes to that, but it's how do we interact with those that are struggling? That's you know, how do we interact with those that are on a fixed income? You know, nearly 20% of our population in the Hutt are over 65, and that's a number that's going to continue to grow. You know, from a rates point of view, a debt point of view, like a lot of councils in New Zealand, we're living beyond our means, and we have got some challenges. And being a Pasifika mayor, to be honest, not going to help some of those. You know, it might make me more popular in some areas of the community, but you know, people want to see a reduction in their rates. People want to see, you know, a reduction in their cost of living. You know, people want to see a better life for themselves. They want to see more vibrancy in our central business district. Retail, as you know, is changing. With the arrival of, you know, of mobile phones, you can sit in your lounge, you know, in little old Lower Hutt and order something from Florida in America, and it'll arrive in 10 days' time. Such is the power and influence of the internet and online shopping, it changes the way that we live our lives, and you know, put pressure on the large retail malls and shopping malls, you know, that was such a catch cry in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. Absolutely, no, right.
Talking about this, I think one question that I would have is, when we're talking about Lower Hutt, is what your vision for the future of Lower Hutt is.
Great question. You know, we all want to live. We all want to live a wonderful life in safe circumstances and secure. Everybody wants that wherever you are around the world. I think it's a lot easier for us here than it is in some places, as you are aware, around the world. From a leadership or from a civic leadership point of view, we are at significant crossroads at the moment. Like, for example, I never ran on a platform of amalgamation. I ran with the intent of trying to do the best that I can for local costs. Looking, you know, as an example, Lower Hutt City Council has a revenue base of $309 million. We have expenses that are estimated to be around $369 million. So that's typical of a lot of the councils. All of us are dealing with more debt than we can afford. We have, I think, 347 lines of service that we're responsible for delivering, and we have 550 staff. So I thought that, and I still have a responsibility to see that out, because that's the platform that I was elected. But everybody in New Zealand has been thrown a huge curveball. We've had essentially we've been concentrating on amalgamation, which is not what I ran on amalgamation, but we need to prepare our city and our position for where we want to be in that conversation. And early August, all the papers and documents have to be with the government. Cabinet's going to decide. My understanding, legislation's already on its way to select committee, and it will be law this time next year, which will mean that amalgamated city. So what we're all discussing and debating now is we're talking to Wellington. Do you want to join with us in the unitary? Talking to Poirua, do you want to be part of it? Upper Hutt and Lower Hutt, what are we going to do? Do we want to be part of it? And you've got the 3 unitaries in the Wairarapa as well, plus Kapiti, Kapimana, and all those areas up there, Horowhenua as well. So that has captured almost, as you know, that has captured almost the entire local government debate on who's in, who's out, and if you don't present a paper to government outlining what your preference is, they're going to do it to you. They're going to tell you what you're. So that's where we are at the moment. We've been, I think, something like 59. I think I saw earlier today. I saw 59 engagements we have had since May with various community groups to address amalgamation.
Right.
What do community groups think about the amalgamation situation? Broadly speaking, they're in 3 groups. Yeah.
There are those that accept that inevitably amalgamation is here.
Like they can't, it's going to happen.
Yeah, they know it's going to happen. There's a second group that is ambivalent. Don't know, whatever happens will happen. And then there's a third group who's opposed. And that's pretty much a reflection of most communities, I would suggest.
Yeah.
In opposition or?
Yeah, well, there are some, even on our council, there are some who want Lower Hutt to be what they were elected to do, serve Lower Hutt and be Lower Hutt independent of anyone else.
So are they worried that the amalgamation would take away from the local communities, identity?
It will do that. In spite of what we all try and say, including myself, we might put on a brave face, but it's going to be very different from, essentially, New Zealand is 78 councils, which is too many, and the combined debt is 31 billion of those 78. So we just need to find a different way, So the government has been responsible, in spite of what people try to say about the government. And even if there's a change of government at the next elections, we've been very reliably informed that nobody's going to change position. So we just need to get on. We just need to get on with it.
Right. So that's a lot of going on at this time for the local councils and governments. So within that, the mayor, I see you also, you've been generous to attend a lot of events for communities and things. How you see your experience where you're engaging with different multicultural communities, and like I know you this coming Sunday there's another events you will be going to. So how that's feeling for a mayor, like being invited for different cultures and a lot of food, I assume.
Oh yeah, beautiful. This one, Chinese New Year had a 10-course meal at Mr. Yan's.
You're making me jealous.
In the Hutt, so if you're in the Hutt, Mr. Yan's, which is behind KFC, opposite Pack and Save, beautiful place to eat. But when people ask you, it's an honour to be asked, and when I get to go to the multicultural thing, it's inspiring. Whether it's Indian dancers, Chinese musician, Filipino. I'm also, I think, I'm patron of the Hutt Multicultural Society as well. That comes with the office of the mayor. But I find it hugely inspiring. To be in the company of new culture, or cultures that are new to me, especially when it's celebrated, with such joy and such pride, and we hope that long may that continue, because when new ethnicities and new groups, new language, new culture, new ways of doing things. Collectively, that makes us a stronger country.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make us weaker, it makes us better. Makes us better people. We get to interact, you know, we get to learn and give us a reason when you make new friends to go and visit their countries as well and
That's
put
right.
that on your own bucket list.
Yeah.
And then, I find it very humbling that I get in, and I get invited to a lot of places.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great. And what do you think as a council, do they have enough resources, funding to support such events when the community is trying to, is there enough help from the local
No, there
city
isn't.
council?
No, there isn't. I wish there was more. Part of my role as a leader in the community, I see anyway, is to use my influence and the influence of the office to try and generate more financial partners for us. You know, it can be difficult for a lot of community organisations to bring in private money to support community events. I'm fortunate of, you know, because of the position that I hold, I've got access to a lot of people, you know, some of whom have an interest in those areas as well. So, you know, public-private partnerships, I would like to think are going to be one of the cornerstones of my leadership of the Hutt City Council.
Wonderful, nice. Great. I have a question about youth. If you have a question, or I should go.
I'm happy for you to go.
Right, it's about youth and youth in Lower Hutt. We've been recently engaging with a lot of amazing youth from Lower Hutt specifically. So I want to see how they can play a role to help the council and council help them to thrive. Is there a way like the youth voice to be heard? And if there's that, what kind of way, as a leader of the city, you would suggest that, okay, let's bring the youth into the table. So how do you think that youth voices are being heard in the Lower Hutt City?
Yeah, well, I think the best thing that we can do for the youth is to support them to do what they want to do. And, you know, for example, in Lower Hutt amongst our rangatahi, Māori kapahaka is huge. We have some of the most accomplished and highest achieving kapahaka groups in Lower Hutt, Te Awa Kairangi. We have Indian dance groups. We have contemporary dance group. I'm very, very passionate about music and the performing arts. We had to do a big community engagement program a couple of weeks ago at the event centre. It's about 150 people there, and as the guests arrived, we had a kapahaka group perform as they walked through the doors, and the theme of the public meeting was amalgamation. Things are going to change. And I was at the Nainai College prize giving last year, and this very talented Pasifika student sung the Sam Cooke song. What is it? Time's going to change, or life's going to change, or some beautiful voice. So we tracked her down and got her to come to the amalgamation event. So as people arrived, they had the kapahaka and haka and waiata as they went through the doors, and the MC welcomed everybody in and said that tonight is about change. And then Sam Cooke's song started, and then I think Alia was her name. She got up and sung the song. Then we went through the program, the formal side of the program, which most youth would find boring. And then anyway, there was about an hour and 20 minutes of talking, and then we finished with a slam dunk poet who had been there all night taking notes. I think it was Takahu Rolleston, I think his name is. I hope I've got that name right, Takahu, if you're watching, bro. And anyway, I'd never heard a slam dunk poet before. I'd never heard of what it was. So what he did, he was there all night, went around the tables. There were 16 tables, and he made a whole lot of notes about what people said, and then he finished the night off with this poem kind of type thing of a rap.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm trying to say. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that he was what you could view as a very boring, very staid public meeting about amalgamation, but it had dance, it had song, it had performance, you know, and it had a poem, you know. So when we talk about what you can do for, and all in the main, all delivered by young people, you know, it's creating opportunities for them. And you know, I think at a lot of our public events we could do a lot more in the performance space. I remember during the Chinese New Year, I heard these two. They were 9 years old. They were playing, I don't know what the Chinese call those sit-down guitar things, but they played beautiful instruments in the Lower Hutt Library, and they were doing a big Chinese celebration. And I remember getting the name of the two kids and said, next time we have a citizenship ceremony, I want everybody to hear those two kids as they walk in and arrive. So the last time we did it, we used a couple of hagaru. This time we used these, but it was beautiful.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And again, it's, you know, when you have that sort of talent, you have that sort of ability, you just need to create opportunities for people within what we do so that they can perform. You know, and I hopefully, with my time with the Colombian community and the Filipino community, can learn more. We can interact more. We can do some stuff together.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Especially for the youth.
Wonderful. I love that. Creating opportunity for young people. I think that's the type of the leadership which has opened the pathways for them to see themselves to grow in a different fields, in the art, in the music, in leading the city, their opinion. Mayor, I've been enjoying this, but I'm hearing that the time is finished. Gone over time, but I think it's
our
good.
conversation's so interesting. We're like, no, we want to keep on going.
So I think so. We do this in tradition. But before that, I want to ask you this question, the last one. What will be your message to anyone who's listening, watching this podcast?
Oh,
yeah. Well, I hope that I've been able to share with you some of the journey that I've been in such a way that you see leadership and you see the opportunity to make a difference in the community the same way that I have. And in spite of being the first Pacifica mayor, I'm looking forward to the day when we have an Asian mayor, or when we have a Colombian mayor, or when we have more Filipino leadership around. And I hope that the leadership of the future of our country is a reflection of the people who live in it, and that's all of us.
yes.
Right, wonderful. No, I really appreciate your time and sharing this corridor with us. It's great to see the passion, the journey, the family, how it started up, and the service for community. So it's just great to have this conversation. And the last things, we do this with all the guests. We have a tradition in our podcast that previous guests have left a question for upcoming. Then you will have a chance to leave a question for the future guests as well.
Okay.
Let's see what they left to you. If you watch our YouTube, you will know who was that.
Okay.
So, you want to read it, Harry?
So,
Yeah, got that one.
gotta move the mic out of the way. So, if you were to tell yourself, like your younger self, how far you've come, would you be proud? So, would you be proud of your younger self now that you know how far you've come?
I would be, yeah. Never would I have dreamed that I would be in the position I have. When I was younger, I hope that, my journey and my story can inspire, other people as well. But I would never have believed in my wildest dreams, when I was young, that I would be the Mayor of Hutt City.
Okay. Love it.
Thank you.
That's the one.
And then you can put your own.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mayor. It's been lovely to have this conversation with you. I look forward for future opportunities, different occasions as well, to engage with you and have more. Yeah. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Javi, for hosting this beautiful podcast. And to everyone, whānau there, hope you enjoy this podcast and stay tuned for the upcoming one. See you. Ka kite.